So lastly, we want to look at our method and how we support parents in passing on the faith to their kids. So we've been talking about the history of catechesis and what it looks like in different cultures and different family structures and all that sort of thing. We took a look at who's responsible for handing on the faith. It's the parents, and now we want to see how we support parents in doing that. And I want to start with this quote, another quote from Pope John Paul II. This one's from his document Familiaris Consortio on the Family in the Modern World. And he says this in paragraph 36. He says, "The right and duty of parents to give education is essential since it is connected with the transmission of human life." Again, that natural law argument, right? "It's original and primary with regard to the educational role of others on account of the uniqueness of the loving relationship between parents and children. And it is irreplaceable and inalienable, and therefore incapable of being entirely delegated to others or usurped by others." Right? So parents are the primary educators of their kids. We can't usurp that role, even if they ask us to. And so what we want to do is build up an approach here at the parish that won't usurp their role, won't try to usurp their role, but will help them step into it and grow into it. And growth takes time, so they're not all going to get it right away. But what does that look like, right? In our current Catholic culture, where 20% of Catholics attend Mass on Sunday and less Catholics than that know the faith well, how are we going to be attentive to what the Roman Catechism said, the age, capacity, manners, and condition of the parents of the kids who are coming to us? Of the full family, right? Not just the individual child. There's a couple things that we're trying to do here. Number one, we want to try to provide parents with clear and easy ways to engage with their kids around faith. Clear on-ramps, if you will. How does a parent reinforce this stuff at home? We can't just sit back and say, man, I really wish the parents would reinforce things at home. We have to show them how to do it, right? And so some of what we're doing here is we now have an expectation of parental involvement in sacramental prep. A lot of times parishes will expect parents to disassociate with sacramental prep, and that's very unfortunate. That's the most important thing that we're doing, is preparing kids to receive Jesus, to encounter the Trinity in the sacraments. Parents have to be involved in that, or it's never, ever, ever going to work. And so our expectation has to be, you as a parent with a second grader, you as a parent with an 8th grader, a 9th grader going into confirmation, you will be involved in this preparation process, and we will help you do it. Right? So what does this look like? We give them clear outlines of what to do. We're not just going to wave our fingers at them and say, you should be talking to your kid about the faith. We're going to show them I want you to read this scripture passage with your child. I want you to talk through these question and answers with your child. We're going to provide video supports from us, similar to this, helping parents do this in their own homes. And then provide accountability through learning check-ins online so we know that they're actually doing the thing. We've been doing this for the last year here. We've been doing it for years at previous parishes. And I can tell you, using this approach, most families will do most of the stuff most of the time, as long as the expectation is clear and it's a simple process. And so we are providing parents with easy in-ramps in sacramental prep years. We're providing a programmatic and a systemic approach to faith formation. Not necessarily a systematic approach, right, but a system. There's a system of formation happening here that they're plugging their entire family into by putting their kindergartner in our class, by putting their 4th grader in our class, by joining Edge, by putting their high schooler in Life Teen. Right? There's a whole system and a program that's going on. And so what that means is we have to have a unified faith formation program instead of 35 independent classrooms across 2 campuses. Right? That means what's going on in a 3rd grade classroom has to be built on what happened already in a 1st grade classroom and has to anticipate what's going to happen in a 5th grade classroom. Right? There's got to be a systemic, if you will, approach to this sort of thing, instead of an independent, every grade, every year has to do everything. Because that's not fair to you as a catechist. You can't teach everything to this child this year. Right? And it's not fair to the parents either. If every one of our catechists are trying to teach everything to every child, that's massively overwhelming. We're going to get there. We've got time, right? And so each grade level needs to be able to build upon the ones that come before it, and so that no grade has to do all of it, right? So we have to have this programmatic, systemic approach to formation, if you will. And so part of what that looks like here is when, on a given catechetical session, we want to teach one topic to all of the kids that are here, or at least most of the kids who are here, right? Sometimes with the middle school program, it won't be exactly lined up with what's going on in the elementary program, but we're trying to simplify things for parents again. If a parent comes to us with 3 kids and those kids walk out of our building learning 3 completely different things, it's all the Catholic faith, it's all connected, but they don't have the background to make those connections necessarily. Some of them do, but not all of them. Some of them are, even the ones who do, they're tired when they got here, and so they can't make the connections. This kid talked about Mary, this kid talked about baptism, this kid talked about the Eucharist. How do we have any conversation about this? But if they all learned about baptism, they all did different activities in their classrooms, but they're all walking out of here with a bottle of holy water, a parent can now have a conversation. They don't even have to lead it. It's going to happen naturally. The kids are all going to be like, you have the same thing I had. Well, why did they give that to you? What did they tell you about that? Oh, you baptized a baby doll. Well, we talked about form and matter. We did manipulatives. We went over to the church and looked at the baptismal font. A conversation is naturally going to happen. That's a much easier on-ramp for a parent than try to discern these 3 different topics and figure out what connects and engage with your kids when you're exhausted at the end of the day. That's unfair. Right? That's parental abuse. And so we want to have this one general topic for all grades. We want to tell parents what we're teaching their kids when we're teaching them that topic, and so we'll send them these summary emails. Ideally, it's going to be like 10 minutes before pickup. Sometimes life happens and they don't get it that early. Some of the parents don't look at it then, but we want to make it so that any parent who wants to, if they're sitting in our parking lot waiting to pick up their kids, they can pull out their phone and see, oh, they just learned about baptism tonight. And here's a scripture passage about baptism. And here's a video that I could watch myself in the car right now or show my family at some point. And here's a question that I could ask them when they come out here. Or here's, oh, they're telling me they're bringing holy water bottles home. And here's what you're supposed to do with the holy water bottle, right? They have an idea of what we just did with their kid. So there can be some reasonable hope that this parent is going to engage in that topic. Right? And we want those take-home items to be used at home, or at least something that can spark a conversation. Right? If these kids don't go to Mass, their families don't go to Mass regularly, they're probably not tripping over sacramentals at home. And so we want to provide that to them through prayer cards, through medals, through holy water, various sacramentals, sometimes just little silly Jesus things that they might just take home and throw away. It might get lost in the car. Parents might be mad that those nice church people are always sending my kids home with all this garbage. They're conversation starters, right? And they're visible reminders. And it's something that hopefully a kid is going to grab onto and grasp onto, and it'll be an important thing for them, right? Kids love material stuff. Some people call it materialism. You might also call it a sacramental principle, where body-soul composites were built for physicality, tangible things. And so we want to capitalize on that instead of fight against it, right? And that's a method for getting what we're teaching the kids here into the home, right? So we want to provide these clear, easy on-ramps for parents. We want to try to simplify what we're doing. We've touched on this a little bit. Simplify the doctrine that we're teaching without watering down, right? So what do we mean by simplify without watering down? I'll give you an example, basic doctrine, right? Jesus is a single divine person with 2 natures, a full divine nature and a full human nature complete with emotions, right? That is the doctrine of the incarnation. Who is Jesus? Watering that down is Jesus gets you. God gets you. That's not the message we want to send the kids home with. Simplifying that, though, is Jesus is fully God and fully human. We've said the stuff. We've given the basics of it. There's plenty to unpack there. And we can unpack that over time. And we're going to try to unpack that in our classrooms at various levels depending on the grade that you're teaching, right? But at the very least, that is the fullness of that doctrine. Jesus is fully God and fully man. And we can talk about what that looks like. But that's not the same thing as just he gets you, he loves you, right? You see the difference there. So we want to simplify the doctrine without watering it down, again, because a lot of our folks just don't have the context to receive all of the words. We want to get them there. We want to use the words. Don't shy away from the big theological words. We can explain those in simple terms, right? But the idea is we have to recognize the soil, the culture, the context that we have to work with. You don't want to sow a seed in concrete because it's never going to grow, right? So we got to till the soil a little bit, and we got to simplify. So that's what we want to do is simplify without watering down. And then we also want to engage kids in the way that they learn through activities for multiple intelligences. We know from lots and lots of research, school teachers know this sort of stuff, you know this intuitively. Not everybody learns the same way. Some people learn just by hearing things. Some people learn just by seeing things. Some people learn by doing. Some people have to experiment and fail and try again and all that, right? Some are more interpersonal learners, so they need reflective questions and time alone to think about it. Some of the kids just need to talk. Some people just need to talk. Words just need to come out for them to process, right? We all learn in different ways. Information is only ever received according to the mode of the receiver. And so if we are just teaching the faith in the way that we prefer to teach it, it might not land. It probably won't land for most of them. If we're teaching in the way that most of the kids learn most of the time at least, then we're speaking their language and we can hope that it'll actually land. So what does that look like? All these different learning activities that we give, manipulatives, there's all sorts of educational reasons for these sorts of things. If you learn something with just a little bit of motion, it's more likely to stick. If you just draw a circle on your page as you're listening to me talk, just the movement of your hand will help you remember it more. If you sing something, you're more likely to remember it. If it rhymes, you're more likely to remember it. If you have a big emotional experience while you're learning about something or while you experience something, you're more likely to remember it. Right? And so these are some of the basic principles behind the activities that we're trying to present and teaching various doctrines. Do we nail it every time? No. Sometimes it's too repetitive. Sometimes it's not the right sort of activity for that classroom. Sometimes it worked beautifully last year, and this year it bombs, right? But we're trying. We're coming up with different activities and trying to do different things because engaged kids are more likely to learn. Engaged kids are less likely to act up. And engaged kids are more excited about coming here. And so when those things happen, we get more happy and trusting parents, right? Engaged kids with simpler and clearer on-ramps for parents are going to yield happier and more trusting parents, and that's who we're after. We don't want to ignore the kids. We want to teach them the faith on their own level as well, but we're really after the parents. You're not the primary catechist of the parent, right? You're not the primary catechist of the kid either, but you're primarily focused on the kid, right? But the system in which you're teaching is focused on the parent. And so if we've got a happier kid, a more engaged kid, a kid who walks out of here saying, we did all these cool activities, that helps the parent trust the pedagogy and trust the things that we're asking them to do. And then they're far more likely to try at home what we're proposing for their family life. They're more likely to open the email and figure out, how do I engage in this thing that my kid likes? If my kid's excited about it, I want to get into it too. I'll learn the rules of soccer if my kid's into soccer. I'm going to figure out painting if my kid's into art, right? If my kid is deeply into faith formation because it's fun and exciting and they're learning something cool and they're bringing something home, I as a parent am going to engage in that on some level, right? So they're far more likely to look at the emails that we send home if their kids are engaged and excited about the class. They're far more likely to use the things that we send home instead of just throw them away. And all of those things together mean there are better odds that that child in your class is going to receive the faith fruitfully. And that's what we want.